Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
As both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day. All right, guys, welcome back to the best hour of their day. We are here at CrossFit Heath. Real quick, you guys know that we do this podcast and we produce all of this content to build bigger, better, more impactful affiliates. Go check out Affiliate U, schedule a call, and then you can be awesome like this guy, Brandon, here. But check it out, guys. If you have questions, just reach out. We're happy to help you. But
Brandon Watson, CrossFit Heath. Here we are, seeing you again.
Yes.
we're here in the cold state of Texas.
Yeah, Texas is surprisingly
I don't know what's
cold.
happening
It's
here. The
snowing
weatherman
outside.
is full of shit.
Our weather is bipolar. Yeah. It doesn't know what it wants to do.
Here we are, not quite in Dallas, but suburb of Dallas? We in a
Correct.
suburb?
Yeah. We're just east of Dallas, about probably 20 miles east.
Yeah, and we're staying like an hour away. Fern
You're in Fort Worth.
really wanted to come here.
Yeah, he did, and I appreciate
Fern
that.
doesn't like to see many people, but he was very excited to see
Very
you.
true, actually.
And there's a few reasons. Well, you've been an amazing client of ours, and on to year two, and you've got a couple other stories along the way that I think are important for affiliate owners to hear. So let's dig in. First of all,
Yes.
I love this. I think more affiliates need crews. Crews make you
agree.
look jacked.
We just did a bunch of
Agree.
crew sweatshirts.
Yeah, crew's the way to go.
Crews
We
make
went-
you look jacked.
There are a bunch of like.
We just made an order of
All right.
Yeah.
I also like this
Red
kind of.
and
This is
blue.
like a classic.
It's retro.
It's retro.
Yeah, I like it.
That's it.
So established 2009, but here's the thing: that wasn't you.
That's correct.
Tell us about it.
So where it started, a previous owner started it back in 2009. He was actually a Masters Games athlete.
Who's this? What's his name?
Cliff Lewis. So,
I actually
yeah.
I remember because
Yeah.
he's bald, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
He is
I
a
could
bald-headed
see
dude.
I
How do you
remember that.
that?
I just
It's random.
You can't even remember where we're supposed to
I
be
remember-
on any given day. And you remember Cliff Lewis from 2011, the
Cliff.
Masters division.
Right.
I just remember that person. I don't. Back in the day, those Masters divisions were
That's
small.
Ortiz.
Yeah, like-
that was that group.
That was who's the guy that popped? Sean.
Yes.
Good dude.
Yeah,
I like Sean a
but
lot.
in that
Yeah,
same group, yeah. So yeah, he was the beginning of all this, and started it in basically kind of started in his garage. Neighbors saw him doing this CrossFit thing, and then he moved into an actual little strip shopping center, a little small facility. This is actually the third facility that CrossFit Heath has been in.
Well, and we should talk about it because you walk in and I immediately asked you, like, what was this?
Yeah,
You would not think this was built to be a CrossFit. It's like bay doors. Like I thought maybe a fire department. Like
Well, hold on.
type
It
of thing.
looks like it was built for a CrossFit gym, but that is very rare that somebody built it with the intention of putting a CrossFit
Well,
gym.
this
Right.
and it's in a strip mall. Like it's attached.
Yeah,
There's a
kinda.
restaurant
Right.
over there, right?
Yeah.
So it's a unique spot.
It
so
is, yeah.
This is the third place it was, but
That's correct.
Cliff started in his garage, started moving. When did you find CrossFit, and how did you become?
Yeah, so I
the owner?
found CrossFit in 2012. Actually joined here in 2012. 6-8 months later, I
Why'd you start?
Why? Because I about died doing a physical agility test for the Rockwall Volunteer Fire Department.
So you were already
Yeah. So at that time, I'd already been I'd been a firefighter for over 10 years.
volunteer only.
No, as a paid firefighter.
Okay.
And so in a suburb called McKinney here, just north of Dallas. And so I was like, hey, I'll volunteer here, do a little extra. And you had to take a physical assessment. And I'd always prided myself on being in shape. I was a typical 24-hour guy, I was doing some cardio, less cardio, a little bit more of lifting.
Stairmat. You just did
Exactly,
for
doing
fire?
it,
That bench press was strong.
Oh, buddy, was it ever? Yeah.
Not so good at putting out
no,
fires.
exactly. And so I went and I took this test, and literally that Fran cough, that feeling after, I was dying. And I literally had to sit on the truck and just wait for 30 minutes before I could even move.
Do you remember what it was?
It was just a hose drag evolution. That,
So you were doing the.
yeah, it was
this
the
was
whole
a workout
evolution.
for the fire
For the
department.
fire department.
Okay.
So,
Which is how long in total? Like,
it was probably literally 2 minutes.
I was
going to
say less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, like I said, it's almost like a friend
Right.
with the way you felt. So I didn't even know CrossFit was a thing. I'd never even heard of it. So called a good friend of mine back at the fire station, and I'm like, dude, you got to get me back in shape. I don't know what has happened, but I'm out of shape.
But meanwhile, if you would have looked in the mirror, you're like, I'm in shape.
I thought I was in shape. Yeah, I thought I was good. And so he was like, hey, man, go check this thing called CrossFit.com out. I was like, okay, what's that? So I get on, I'm looking at CrossFit, and I'm like, that's interesting. So I start doing some of the workouts at 24 Hour Fitness, which the cool thing then was they had 2 rowers, always available.
Yeah.
Nobody.
They are always available, yeah.
Nobody was on
And
a
if
rower.
they're not, you can just watch that show
That's
happen on the road.
right.
You're like, what is happening over there?
Well, nor did I know what was going on either. So, I'm doing what I could at a 24, and then I actually ran into a girl that I graduated high school with that was a coach here at that time. And I ran into her one day, and she was like, hey, come to CrossFit. I was like, I actually been trying to do this CrossFit thing. So I showed up, and loved it. Been here ever since. And then started coaching probably 6-8 months later. I went and took my level 1, and
That's awesome.
like, the old school is like, all right, level 1.
Let's do it.
You're the coach.
Yeah, come on. Are you
floor.
available at 6 a.m.?
That's right, exactly. Tag, you're it.
How quickly did you notice a difference in the test? Did you have to? That's the CPAP.
No,
was it the CPAP test?
no, this was their kind of own made up thing. I passed it, so I was good. I never had to take it again.
Pre-CrossFit, you had passed it anyway.
That's correct.
You just
yeah.
felt it.
But I knew that I was way out of shape.
And then, did you see a difference?
Massive.
Yeah.
So I started noticing when we were training in McKinney at the fire department. We have to do training often on the paid department. So I started noticing in our training, like my fitness level was increasing significantly.
And were other people recognizing that and joining you?
Yeah. And so then I got my crew. At that time, I was a captain. So I ran a crew, and my crew's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this thing called CrossFit. It's CrossFit.com. Check it out. So,
Come on, let's go out to the bay real quick.
Yeah, so we started making some stuff up, and they're like, and then, I do remember one incident. We just got through with a hard workout. So this was a lesson learned.
And did you get a fire?
Yes. And we catch a 3-story apartment fire blowing out of the 3rd floor.
Leave
had
the
literally,
cat. We're tired.
Yes. So one of my guys, he's following me up the stairs. He was cussing me the whole way up. He was like, we're never doing that again. I was like, I agree. That's terrible.
Yeah.
So what was
going.
the rule? Like,
Yeah.
certain times you would only.
Well, we would do it. It's just
You just can't
like,
go ham.
just pull
Yeah.
pull the intensity back. Like there's no reason to just crush your soul, because at any moment you just didn't know when it was coming. So
Did you do a lot of workouts in gear at the time?
not really. It's hot.
I think that's
and then
smart. It's like
Texas.
you get your fitness higher.
That's
you throw
right.
gear on, it's still higher.
That's right. And we were required to do what they call an SCBA consumption test. So basically, you put your breathing apparatus on, and you try to see how long you can
Make it last. Yeah.
Make it last and work off of that, because when you're in a fire, you need to be able to extend, and that's obviously going to shorten because your heart rate's going to elevate, your breathing's elevated, and those are considered 45-minute bottles.
Tanks,
Well,
but
we had a guy
if you can get
do-
20 minutes,
I was gonna
you're
say,
doing
We
good.
had a guy do Fred. It's on video. And
Doing it in gear.
in gear
Yeah, I've seen
air,
that. Yeah.
he went through a tank in like 3 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It was like
just
fogged up,
sucking
and
it
he had
down.
to pop it off. Like he didn't finish Fran with it on, but he
Right.
finished it in his gear.
Yeah. So
So what was the transition? Hey, I'm coaching here. Now I own this place.
yeah, so I coached here for several years, then retired from the fire department, and then the opportunity came that Cliff was going to sell this place, and I was like, hey, I would love to own this place. I would love to see, and by this time I was listening.
I was trying
to
to
you guys.
remember the timeline for that. I couldn't remember if it was like right after you had purchased or no, you
Before.
were going through it.
That's
That's right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you started with us?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I was in the process of buying, and had been for a few months.
It took, I remember it
and-
took a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably about what, 3-4 years ago then?
Yes, so 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5.
Because you were a
yeah.
really early client of ours.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of the first. Yeah.
So I was in the process. We were in the process of buying it, and actually that winter before, kind of this time of year, I have no idea how I came across y'all's podcast. I have no idea.
It's very popular.
It is, yeah. It is. so I started
Joe Rogan,
exactly,
best out
right
there.
below it, yeah. Jocko, yeah. So I started listening to you guys, and I was like, man, these dudes, they,
What was your first thought? Tell us the truth. Like, you started listening?
No, honestly, I was like, these guys know their stuff.
Mostly
honestly,
Akron, mostly me.
But no, honestly, I was like, Fern's good. He'll be my guy.
That's a military thing. That's because he's in the military.
I just knew. I'm like, dude, he and I will connect. Like, I'm just, So, but listening to you guys,
That happens a lot, by the way.
Right, it's the norm.
More than I'd
They
like
don't
to
tell you
admit.
that. They don't tell you in the sales.
The other day, it was like, who are my clients and who are Jay's?
Right.
And I was like, I hope no one notices that big difference in numbers.
Oh, they'll get called out for it. Yeah, exactly. So I just started listening to you guys, and I realized something I'd started to learn that just like in the fire service, we were always training. You were always going to things to better your knowledge, to better what you did. And I realized that in CrossFit, I hadn't been doing that. I had my level 2 at that time, but I wasn't really advancing, right?
That was pretty quick for your level.
Yeah, I think I had been level 1 for 2 or 3 years, and then I got my level 2. I got my level 2 in 15, and then.
Well, you're talking 7 years from when you started to when you. Oh no.
I mean,
almost 10. Yeah. From when you started and when you bought it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was 9 years between starting and owning.
But you had advanced. You weren't continuing doing the level 1.
No, I'd already been to my level 2 and actually done the level 2 twice by the time I actually purchased this. And really a lot of that was just listening to you guys and the leveling up and constantly. And I thought, I probably should be doing that. I do that in the fire service, trying to be the best at I should do that in this same business and seeing that difference. And it goes back to kind of you don't know what you don't know. When I look back the way we used to do things, I'm like, oh, we missed a lot. Right, and we didn't do a lot of things well, right? Which I think is been the evolution of CrossFit. You look back at a lot of things.
I think that's normal.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any other route. Than
yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah,
That's life.
yeah. Well, I mean, I look back at the fire service. You think back, year 1 to year 20. Hopefully, year 2, you're
I hope you're better.
drastically. Yeah. Well, believe it or not, like all things, there are guys that I'm like, dude, you've had 1 year 20 times, man. I mean, come on.
That's a good way. Yeah.
Bro, you're still on year 1. You just done it 20 times, and
was there something? Was there something that you were experiencing that kind of like made you have that realization, or was it just kind of like the whole idea of like, oh, I'm going to be a business owner, man. Like I should probably get some help.
Yeah, that for sure.
And this was your first endeavor in entrepreneur, like fire department was all you were doing?
Correct. I mean, no,
we're talking to the Christmas light guy here, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about.
I remember. That's right now.
I forgot about that.
Oh shit, that's right. I thought that was your turn. Yeah.
I remember on one of the calls you were talking about that, and I was like,
Still doing that. Still doing.
I remember because Roz was like, I want to get someone to do the Christmas lights, and I was like, oh, that's so crazy.
That's right. Yeah. And so that's one of those things that it's one of the few things
for
I've
those
stuck
you
with.
put lights up on people's homes.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do people's Christmas lights. Yeah. So
you're gonna blow up right now.
Right. Yeah.
But you do. But like you do a lot of. You do like hundreds.
How many
of
homes would you do this year?
This year I've got 120 scheduled.
You don't. That's like you solo. You have a company.
No, it's me.
You do 120.
It's me.
How long does one home take you?
It just depends. So like not yesterday because it rained all day, but the day before I did 7, and I was still back here about 3:30.
You did 7 homes in like 7 hours?
Fitness, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting up and down that ladder, dude.
Is it the fake lights where you're blasting them on the house?
No.
It's not a projector, dude. Yeah. We're done.
That's it.
$400.
You literally put.
Yes, I'm crawling across roofs, up
think
ladders.
Most people don't understand is like someone's got to take them down too.
That's right.
So
that's what a stick and a hook's for. Though.
Is that easy? Taking them down's easier?
Oh yeah, you just yank them off the house.
So you do 120 this season?
Yeah, I got about 70 more to go. I've already done 50 in like 2 weeks.
You got to what, December 24th?
Nah, I try to be done by November.
Yeah, that's
great. They start pressing on me a little bit.
Yeah, they're like, yo.
Yeah,
I forgot. I totally forgot about this.
So I've done some things. I've never really stuck with anything other than Christmas lights. I've been doing them now for 23 years.
That's a typical like fired guy.
Oh yeah,
like I need just a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'd always thought, hey, I'd love to own a CrossFit. But one of our guys at the fire department actually owned a CrossFit in Forney, which is just south of us here. And one of the things I noticed, I'm like, trying to be a firefighter and own a gym is really, really difficult because it seemed like anytime he had a problem, it was going to be when he was on shift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I can't do anything about it. Hey, a coach didn't show up. It's like, I'm like, man. And so he ended up having to shut it down because I mean, it just was. It's just hard to run.
We've seen that go well, Dario, North Naples
Yeah.
CrossFit, when I lived in
Matt
Florida.
and Sheree Chan.
Yeah.
They were in there,
Yeah,
like-
exactly. Yeah.
But
you have
tough.
to have that trusted person that you can count on when you're away. And so at that time, we didn't have that here to count on. Everybody had jobs, and it was, again, it was a part-time deal, so you didn't have that availability. So once I was retired, I'm like, hey, I know I can dedicate to this. I know I can put the time and effort into it. So Paul's a business partner of mine, talked about it, and we were like, hey, let's do this. And
How do you two know each other?
Through CrossFit, yeah. So one of my best friends, and met him here. So
That's cool.
Which is I think the case for a lot of people. I spend all day with these two. They've been missing me because I've been hanging Christmas lights. They don't want to admit it.
You
but-
could help.
It'd be a lot faster. We'd be
Yeah,
done
they're
with
not
those
about
extra
to do
70
that,
houses.
so- but yeah, exactly. Somebody's got to work. So, and that's a blessing to have as an owner of CrossFit. People you can count on. That
Right.
now I know I'm in a place where I can go be doing something else, and I know that the gym is taken care of. I don't worry about anything. I really don't. And that takes some time. That takes some trust and building. So that's gotten us.
When you purchased the gym, I always find this question really interesting. What was the first thing that you realized, like, oh, I think for somebody that wants to learn, there's like this weird moment where you realize the things that you don't know.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember any of those things?
Oh yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, and that was listening to you guys. I mean, I'm hearing these things. I'm like, holy, we don't do any of that, and that all makes
We don't start
perfect
Well,
class
sense.
looking
on
around, you
time.
do.
Yeah, we literally didn't. We had a 5-minute grace period. So and so
For
it's
the
like,
coach,
okay.
too?
No, for
Is
the
that why
class.
the signs on the door?
Exactly.
Class start times now.
Yeah, exactly.
It ranges
Yeah,
6
exactly.
to 6:30 ish.
Which it turned into, and so yeah, the 8:30 class was the big fight because we had this 5-minute grace period, which meant 10,
Which is actually 15.
12. Yeah,
Which
exactly.
was that was the class we walked in on. It was
Right,
huge.
yeah. And so we had these same people. They're come walking in on their phone at 7 o'clock or 7 minutes after every day, and it's like, well, I'm kind of on time. I'm like, you were doing nothing. Why are you late every day?
Yeah. But if you
I know
don't
you
start
don't
on
work.
time, I'm
That's
not going
right.
to show up on time.
And so Paul and I made the decision like, hey, from hearing you guys, I'm like, no, we're starting on time. At 8:30, we are starting.
How did that go on day one?
They didn't like it, but
Did you give them?
I
notice?
just told the coaches, hey, we start on time.
But did you tell the members?
We did just in the brief, like, hey guys, we're going to start on time. The grace period's gone. We're starting class on time. And so we started, and we just stuck with it. And there's still some that creep in. And, it's like all things. We get it. If you're hustling in here from work, man, and I got one in the evening. He's always 6, 7, 8 minutes late, but he comes in, jumps in, he gets to work. Cool. I got no.
Yeah, that's not the person that
That's
you give a
right.
hard time.
That's
You're like,
exactly.
that guy shows
Yeah.
up every day.
Sweating with a suitcase.
You know
Yes,
exactly where he's coming from. You're
Exactly.
like, how about you leave that cat alone?
Exactly. But the thing is, the funny part is you really don't have to say anything because the members will bust on them. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, you're
yeah,
right
yeah.
on time. Late again.
Here
Nice
for the
job.
507 today, huh? Good job, Bob. Yeah.
So I've learned that the members, they'll get on. I'm
Wait.
like, we don't even have to say anything.
Looking around the gym, you've been from the first thing you walk in, ambassadors. We can see into your office. You've got your PVBs laid out.
Mm-hmm.
Your Bring a Friend Week. Your
That's Jen's work. That's all Jen's
yeah.
work. Yeah.
your
on
committed
it.
club. You got it all going on in there. So you slowly started rolling all these
Yeah.
new things out.
Yeah, you like I said, when I joined up with Affiliate U, and it's like all things. If you're going to spend your money, and that's the beauty, you got to put your money where your mouth is, and then it also forces you to, hey, like I can either burn this money up or I can actually do what they're asking me to do and implement it. Just like people that come here, it's like, hey, you can just spend your money here and not get anything out of it, or you can pour into it. And so, I'm like, hey, if I'm going to do that, let's implement. Let's put these things in place, and it's a process. It's like all things. We want to dump everything. It's like, hey, I think you said it well the other day. It's like find those two things and just go after them, because we're always chasing that next little shiny object. And if we can dial it down and focus, which is what I like, we've gone to this, and it's like, hey, let's put the priorities, let's put the list, and let's just start working on the list.
I was walking those guys through like building systems, and then like the kind of what we're talking about. How do you create your priorities? And because like every CrossFit gym has a million priorities.
yeah.
There's like,
Yeah.
I want to do every single thing. I want to, solve, world hunger and simultaneously add 10 classes. And it's like, dude, just do 2. And that's kind of what I've shifted to over is like, I just do rolling monthly projects.
Yes,
No more than
which is
3.
great.
I'll typically get on average probably 2.5 of them done. And then I roll that other one over to another month, which is exactly how we design the sprints and everything, just a little bit longer because I don't need 45 days for most of those, but it just keeps you focused. And then it also keeps you accountable because I tell the team what the projects are. So if they're not done, they're like, yo, what are you doing? Like, I thought, how long are we going to do this project?
Exactly.
Like, oh shit. Okay. You're right.
What was one of the things you implemented that had the most return?
Retention, following up with people. That was the big question when we were buying it. Well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to get members in here and advertising and marketing, blah, 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 blah. And I told him, I was like, hey, the problem is we've got a lot of holes in the bottom of the bucket. We've got to plug those. We're getting people in the door. We're not keeping people. And she's actually a Christmas like customer of mine, but I ran into her one day and I was like, hey, I hadn't seen you in a while, and this was before I owned it. And she was like, oh yeah, I've been gone for like 6 months. You're the first person that said anything. I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, note to self. That's not good, right? And I thought, well, that is a shame. Like, you left, and we call ourselves a community, and nobody reached out to you. Nobody checked on you. You just bounced in silence. And I thought, we don't need to be doing that. And then I had another, as we were in the process, I had a girl, I was facing coach class. She pops in over there, and I'm like, hey, what can I do for you? She was like, I just want to sign up. I'm like, well, cool. She was like, I've emailed y'all, called y'all. I can't get anybody to call me back. I was like,
I'm trying to give you money.
yeah. And I was like, that's a problem. So that was another one. I'm like, I'm not going to allow that to happen.
This was when you were just coaching.
I was just coaching. I'm
So
like,
you're
and we were
realizing
in
these
the
things.
process,
Right.
and so I'm like, man, these are things that can't happen. And so
But
the first,
they are things that do happen
Big
all
time.
the time.
Yeah.
Going back to what we preach, which is like, you got to do the basics.
It is.
If you can't do those 2 things, like nothing else really matters, right? You're talking about
Right.
like, keep track of your clients.
It's simple. Yeah.
Call people back.
No
when they-
amount of ads are going to solve that
No,
problem.
no amount of ads are going to
so
solve
simple.
that problem.
It really is.
But that stuff is not. It's simple, not to be confused with easy, which I think is the important
Yeah,
part. Like you have
exactly.
to,
You have to put systems in place to make
That's
sure
correct.
that happens.
and sometimes it's hard work, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like sales is hard, retention is hard. It doesn't have to be really hard, but make no mistake, like it's work.
It is,
you know?
but you got to do it. And,
Right.
and so I would say that was the biggest bang for the buck right away. And I showed the team the other day. I just reached out to a member. He happened to be traveling, took his whole team to Jamaica, I think, or something. I'm like, man, I need to get my boss to do that. I need to call him.
You're the boss. Yeah.
I need to call him.
Take that whole Christmas light team.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Both of us. And how appreciative he was that we just reached out and checked in on him.
Yeah.
And we see that time and time again. They're like, hey, no, everything's great. And they just appreciate that you remembered that they aren't there. And that goes a long ways with our members. And so, I do it every Monday. I pull that report. I see who hadn't been here, and then on the phone start checking in with them, seeing what we can do.
And you're the one doing that.
I do that.
That's one of the first things that when
Jen
people
started this past week since
Yeah.
I'm doing Christmas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
moved her into it.
But that's one of the first things we look at when people are like, "Oh, I'm like my membership's down." I'm like, I can guarantee you might have a lead flow you probably don't. You're just losing more than you should be.
Right.
That is a solvable problem that you have complete control over, and you're not running the play.
That's correct.
Run the play.
Yep.
Just run the play. Don't change it. Don't try to like make it fancy. Don't turn it into a flea flicker. Don't do any of that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Just run the play, dude.
That's
Just
Tecmo Ball.
That's
Yeah.
it, right?
Just give it to Bo
left, sweep
Jackson
right. That's
and
right.
run it up the middle,
That's
man.
it.
Yeah. If he breaks his femur, reset and start the
That's it.
season over.
Well, and the thing is we know the longer that they're out of the gym, the easier it is for them to stay away.
Right.
And so if we can reach back and be like, hey, get back in here. I got some. They still ghost me. And that's okay. I'm like, well, you've ghosted me for 6 months, but
you're
we're
keeping
trying.
at it.
We're
Yeah.
trying. We're
Yeah.
still trying. And they'll come back, or they'll
They'll come back if you do what you're doing.
Right,
Meaning
yeah.
like they will at least consider coming back if they're because when they're like, I'm going to quit, right? Which is a legitimate kind of decision to make at that point. But at some point they'll reconsider and be like, well, they did call me for 6 months.
Right.
When I wasn't showing up. So I trust that they will do their best to keep me accountable and they will show back up. But if you don't make those phone calls, that client's probably lost forever.
That's
They're
correct.
probably not coming back because I did not fulfill my end of the bargain when I was just like, hey, we're going to help you with accountability.
That's right.
And then you meet that person.
Yeah.
You're like, they're like, I was a member at your gym for like 6 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, really?
Really?
You're like, oh,
Where you been?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How did it go? And I'm like, I didn't
That's
go.
right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
So things have been going smoothly.
Yes.
And then recently,
There's always bumps in the road.
you reached out to Fern about purchasing.
We never had this conversation.
we did. Well, we didn't have no, we had it.
The follow-up conversation, that is? Or the...
Yeah, we had it.
Let's have it right
It
here.
was very brief.
Let's
though.
have it, Fern, it was
Yeah.
probably like this, Brandon. I was right.
No, we didn't. No, I was going to ask that question. We just never did.
He
Must have told you.
No,
No,
I knew.
You know, 'cause he brought it up.
We talked about it afterwards. So
Oh, okay. We
he
talked
called me with
maybe a
that. He
little
called me.
bit-
He's like, "Hey, I've got a potential opportunity," just like we were talking
Oh,
about.
no. So this is a different deal.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know about this one then.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
which
the
one
one
did we-
you and I talked about. Yes,
Okay.
I did talk to you about that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That was
So,
garbage.
but talk about it because it's important because we've been talking a lot about affiliate owners do well. They have a box and it's like, cool.
Yeah.
There's potential out there.
to open up another one.
Yeah, I need to, I need to buy a second one.
Well, it wouldn't be buying. It would be actually a startup that.
No. Let's go back to the one that you and I.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah,
you brought that one to me,
Yes,
and I
I
was
did
just
bring
like,
that one to you,
"Hey,
yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't think I'm going to change my answer, but tell me a little bit
Yeah,
more."
yeah.
And most people are like, well, "Hey, I've got a thing," and I'm like, "I'm probably going to tell you no, but give me all the information."
which was great.
And that one ended up, we talked about it. I gave you like a series of questions, and I was like, "Hey, kind of pitch it this way," and it ended up being like a raw deal, like a raw bad deal.
Yeah, everything about it was going to end up. I was like, yeah, that's bad. Which is the beauty is, and being in Affiliate U and with you guys, that's the beauty. It's like, hey, let me run this by them, see what their thoughts are, because now you're getting a different viewpoint. And because you're like, oh yeah, man, great opportunity, I'm in, and then you realize,
Potential.
Oh boy, I just jumped into a sinking
Potential.
ship.
Everybody who says potential now, you should change that. Be like, this is potentially devastating.
dumpster
What I'm about
fire.
to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, because things are going really well,
Yeah.
and there's this feeling of, well, I need more, rather than I can just make this thing better.
That's correct. And I think too, geographically, that was just a bad setup, right?
I remember
Even
it
though
being
it was-
like kind of far,
yeah, it's on the north side of Dallas, right?
so probably like 40 minutes.
yes,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
a solid
Yeah,
drive,
yeah.
and I've always said I don't want to do anything that pulls me away from here. This is home, and that like really pulls me away, and so, and we talked about that, and I was just like we did here. We had to change the culture. I love that. Instead of community culture, because that's really what it came down to, is making that shift of the culture within this gym. It was cliquish, and it had its moments. Like,
How long did that take?
oh man, I think that I don't know, probably it's a good year for sure.
That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, it's
turning
like
a ship.
at least 12 months.
Yeah, it
before
took time.
before you walk in, like, this is mine. These people are mine. This vibe
right.
is mine. Like, these clients are mine. This whole thing is like what I envision. But it's like, it's a real slow.
It is.
What were
process.
some of the big immediate action items you wanted to change?
Well, the ambassador program, I think, helps that largely because people, it's that feeling like we were talking about earlier about like going to BJJ. It's like, ooh, now I get what people feel like walking into a CrossFit because I never felt that way. I've come in, I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. It's fitness. Doing BJJ like intimidates and scares me a bit. So I'm intimidated walking in there, even though it's probably a great welcoming place.
Right.
And people say that they're like, oh, I'm so intimidated. And when you can take that from them and they can go, oh, I'm home. I'm good. I'm in a good place. And so by being super welcoming, and that's our rule here, you see an unfamiliar face, you get over to them and introduce yourselves immediately. And as the members saw us doing that,
They do it too.
they start to do it too. And you've got your few members that do it anyways, and kind of letting them lead the way. It's really changed that community and
This
culture.
happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I was literally talking to a member, and mid-sentence, she just turns away from me and walks away. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah,
Right? And
what?
then she went over. There was a random person standing in the door. She grabbed them and then brought them to another coach and then came back and started talking to
That's
me again.
awesome.
I was
Yeah.
like, well, I feel like a turd now. It's kind of my job. But I didn't see it. But she kind of knew the rule and it was just like, I mean, she didn't even break stride. Like we were literally mid sentence. She just walked away. I was like, what is happening right now? And then I was like, oh, never mind. I was like, I think I did something right, but I don't know what it is. You know,
I did well. Yeah. And I think that matters. And I even, we get people complimenting. They're like, man, the gym's doing awesome. Y'all are doing an amazing job. I always really do try to kick it back to them because I believe that our culture and our community has created that growth because people do come in the door and they feel welcome and they're like, okay, this thing isn't that big scary animal that I thought it was. And so they are going to have that tendency to stay and really dive in. And we're seeing that more and more because the culture has changed. And people are welcoming. We introduce them before class. We make sure and you'll see the members, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so. And they, even if it's a drop-in, anybody, we don't want anybody to feel unwelcome or not a part of it. Because I've talked to members that were like, first time I come here, nobody spoke to me. And I'm like, God, that's terrible.
That'd be a great test for an affiliate that thinks they have great community. Well, bring a stranger in and see what happens.
Just let them stand there.
You or staff can't talk to them.
Yeah.
See what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah. See what your community does. And because I think a lot of CrossFits are like, well, we get together. Yeah, but your small little group and clique is getting together.
Yeah, you don't realize you're in the clique.
That's right. Yeah, you don't.
It's awesome here. And I'm like, you're in the circle, man.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Of course it's awesome.
The other 90 people are.
And that's one of the things we as coaches, like when we've got our Christmas party coming up, and from the get-go when we started doing this, one of the things I told them, I'm like, hey, guys, we have this tendency to kind of hang out together because this is where we're comfortable. I'm like, get out and mingle. Like, don't be sitting right next to each other. Like, sit at different tables. Mingle with the members so they
at, like,
feel
seminars.
welcome.
Hey, listen, it's easy to sit around and talk to your buddies.
That's right.
But, like, that's not your job here. Like, you need to get out, go talk to the participants, like, go talk to the members. And that was one thing that we changed 2 years ago, maybe. Well, anyway, we basically... Because when we were running our holiday party, the way it was set up, like we were serving the drinks, and so like we couldn't really interact with everybody. So then we basically outsourced all of it. So we got bartender, like we got a food truck, we got all the things. So now the staff can just go out and participate as just a person attending rather than being a server. It also sucks to be in that scenario, kind of like to be at this party but you're working. So it's like, all right, we got to change that.
Yeah, it's almost like going to your own wedding. You got to get around and talk to everybody.
Right.
It's like, hey, it's going to be a busy night. Get around and talk to everybody.
Yeah.
If you see somebody sitting off, go sit with them. Like make them feel welcome so that they want to come to and we're seeing, I think we've got pretty close to 70 already RSVP'd awesome. for December. So, that's up from last year. So super excited about that. That just really kind of tells us that the culture in the community is getting better and better. And again, I think once you can get that, then it starts to rise up.
Yeah.
But it takes some time to do that.
Yeah. What's your growth kind of trajectory? Because it's been pretty strong.
It has. So last year, our first full year, we grew 39. So we hit our 36. We're down from that just a hair this year, but we're going to still be right around that 30 to 36 this year. So we've continued to grow just as we expect, right? And so we've.
But meaning in 2 years you've grown by 60 people.
Yeah.
That's
for sure. Yeah, when we
who
took over,
who doesn't want that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like anybody like, oh, good.
Yeah. So when we took over, we were right at about 85 members when we bought it, and now we're 150 to 160.
Well, I don't remember what the first target was that we set. I don't remember what it was.
I think it was 100.
I think it was like 100. Yeah, it was like 125, 135.
So looking at this space, it's big, it's narrow. Any challenges with that many members?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this setup, the rectangular setup, is
it's like a shotgun if you guys can't like just straight through.
It's not as ideal as I would like it. I think a square is a little better setup. And like we were talking about earlier, as far as doing your progressions and your setups, and you can make it work.
I went full blackout mode.
Yeah, no, it was great though. No, I'm sure they loved it.
You lost those two.
They were like, not sure what he said. Yeah.
Oh, he's talking about
he said,
parallelograms and shit.
He goes, it's a
squircles.
He was like, it's a square, but it's basically a circle. I was like, I don't think he understands geometry.
I meant to say equilateral triangle.
I get it.
Exactly.
I got it.
So I would say that's especially as a coach, trying to make it. It's 120 feet long, so you're trying to
it's a
work
little bit longer
yeah.
than 100, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
and you can maybe fit 2 people per section,
right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you cap classes here?
We don't. Yeah.
So what's a
Good.
large class?
Good.
Yeah.
What was in that
outside
last,
of
what
a
was in that last
Saturday.
class that was
That's
just
like
here?
16.
Yeah, it was
But
like it was a decent size
But
class.
our 5:30 a.m. this week we had 21, so we're around 20 in those classes. I think we're getting pretty close. I think at 24 that's tight.
It's a lot.
But we'll do on Saturdays. We've had up to 35 in here on a Saturday. But again, on those we'll partner teams of 3. That way it's not
You're
as
making the
congested.
appropriate
That's
accommodations
correct.
to not cap classes.
That's right.
It's important.
It's what we're trying to do.
Because you've got 6 classes a day?
6, yep. Except for Fridays, we run 5.
So 6
We
a
stick to
day,
6
150 members. Yeah, I mean, all of them are well attended. At
They
that
are.
Point.
Yeah.
Do you know what your use Watify, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Did you get the dashboard?
Mhm.
What's
Best hour
what's your
dashboard?
What's your percentage attendance?
70.
Dang, that's
Yeah.
killer. 70% average
Yeah.
active time.
Yeah.
So what we look at is average a percentage of active client attendance on a it's by week, right? But on an average per day, 40 is as low as 40. You have problems. That percentage will drop as you grow more and more
Sure.
and more, obviously.
Yeah, I get that.
But 70's fantastic.
70's
I know.
fit.
That's why I asked you that.
70's fit. Yeah, I would tell you like even if you were like in that 150 range, I'd be like 60 would be killer, but 70's
When you crunch
crushing.
those numbers, I mean, that's 100 plus people coming in your door
Right.
every day.
Right, which is fantastic, right? Which is the reason we made that. It's a real good leading indicator for future success or problems when you look
That's
at the number.
really good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Which is what I love about that dashboard, because it does give you that break. Because when you start looking at and you're doing your reach outs and you're like, man, I got a bunch of people we hadn't seen. But then when you can see that, you go, but I got a lot of people showing up. And until I saw it, and that's why I asked you, I'm like, hey, what's a good number? You're like 40. I'm like, ooh, we're at 70. I'm like, jamming.
Well, 40.
Did I
So
win?
40. I wouldn't necessarily say 40's good.
Or-
Like
but
40
that
is
was
just
your
like
number,
that's the
yeah.
spectrum, right?
Right,
So like
yeah.
when you start moving in that 40 range, it's just
got
like, hey, what's
problems.
going on? Like I need to apply some context here. Does that include, like for us, ours is higher, but like it includes like the weightlifters in there who don't check in for class. Ours looks lower, but it's probably north of like high 50s, like closer to 60 if I take those guys out. But that's context. I look at that. And if you were a gym under 40, or excuse me, under like 100, I'd want to see for sure closer to 60, 70% of people showing up on a daily basis. But yeah.
Yeah. No, and I was super excited to see that, especially once you said that. I was like,
That's
okay,
great,
good, man, awesome.
So with such a high attendance daily, what are some of the other things you do to make sure the class experience stays at the highest level?
Yeah, so we follow CAPS programming, and Jen's she's in charge of that. And one of the things she looks at is like, hey, how's it going to flow for us, right? We know the limitations of equipment. We have 10 bikes, 12 rowers, so you're going to have some limitations. But that's one of the things, that's where that lesson plan comes in, and we talk a lot about that. And that's why I tell the coaches, it's like, hey, that's why we do these lesson plans, and we need to be prepared for, hey, you can go from one class that's 20 people to 3, in the next one, depending on the time of day, and so are you prepared for that to happen and still create a great workout, a great experience so that it flows well? And so to me, I think it goes back to that being prepared for the class and the lesson planning of that to create that.
How often do you find yourself changing some of those workit's, do you know? Or is that Jen?
Jen,
How often do you? Not often.
No.
Okay. Right. So
Yeah.
if you guys didn't hear that, she's talking about like if it's just a monostructural workout where they're limited, we only have 10 of these, then it might have to change. But outside of that, she's figuring out all the normal ways, stagger start, like how do I do a waterfall start? Like how do we,
All the basics.
Well, and one thing I took from you that I liked that he disagreed with, but I liked it. I was
We
like,
never disagree.
yeah, right.
What'd I
But
say?
you had said, maybe when we talk about communication, what we do is now on Thursday nights, we jump on a 15-minute Zoom call with the coaches and we go through the programming. And so one of the things come up is next week, it's a rowing workout. And you're going to have more people than rowers and the way it's set up. So we just, as a group, chat, hey, let's move it around this way. Let's partner it up, make it fit. And that's kind of that nice saying we can all jump on, and we keep it like I'm.
What you not like about that?
I don't remember. It's probably that it was just like a Thursday night. And I didn't.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't the meeting because like I do a programming meeting every week
Right.
too.
Yeah.
But it was probably just like the Thursday night.
Yeah,
portion
it
of
wasn't.
He was just
He was
trying
just
to find
exactly,
something.
exactly.
I was
But-
like Ackerman. It was right.
You know what? It's all good. I got a Christmas light
That's
business
right,
I'm trying to start in Colorado.
But I thought it was a great idea. Instead of, I used to send out an email to the coaches, but I thought we could get a lot
We
more
get buy-in.
talked about and get
ideas.
them exactly. So, and there's been a few of them that ended up actually being a long conversation, but it was good because a lot of good came out of that. We had an opportunity. It was unplanned, and somebody was like, "Hey, I got this," and I was like, "Cool, we're on here. We can chat about it. Let's talk about it because, us three are here together often, but we've got 3 other coaches that have other jobs
Need to
and
get plugged in.
And that's right. And so this is just another way to try to help them plug into us and know, kind of what the plan is and give some input as well.
And I'll say, like, on that, that's one of those meetings where there's no bad ideas.
No, absolutely
It's like
not.
you don't want to shoot someone down because they'll never give you another. And I would
That's
even run with one that I'm like, I think this isn't going to work, but cool, let's do that one just to make them feel good and show them like, hey, we'll try anything if you, back it with.
Right, and we just actually had that happen. And so one of the things we had done, and right or wrong, we took the weights away from the
So no
board.
RX.
There was
Just
all
no
RX.
weights.
There was just no weights because we were really focused on getting people to chase that stimulus, not the weights.
The RX is the stimulus.
That's
David
right.
Osorio does that.
Yeah, and so
and you do it for a month.
So we did
We're
it
doing
for
it in December.
We did it for over a year, and it was working well. It was like, hey guys, check the ego. Let's work on the stimulus. You're going to get to click RX if you hit the stimulus that we've talked about, and I thought it went really well. But one of our coaches, she really had a lot of questions about it, didn't understand why, and so that led into a very long and extensive conversation between us all, and so we chatted more and more about it, and I was really trying to understand why she was so passionate about having them there, and for her it was giving people something to chase, and I definitely see her point of view, so we opted actually to put it back in.
Well, that shows you as a leader too, being open-minded.
Yeah, for sure.
To listen to someone, because I think a lot of affiliate owners would be like, no, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also highlights that, like, again, there's not a ton of absolutes.
Right.
in
There's
all
no
of
right or
this,
wrong.
right? There's no right or wrong, and there's validity to both. There's validity to not having it up there, and there's a ton of validity to having it up there. And I think it's more about like what is the team, what is the cultural understanding of why we're doing it, what do we emphasize when we talk about those things, and then how it's delivered.
That's correct.
Delivery, matters more than anything.
That's correct.
Right? And this is where I don't like to give this dude a ton of credit, but like he's
Give it
like
to me.
he
Give it to
does
me now.
but like delivery matters. We always joke like Jay can say anything to anybody, but and afterwards they'll be confused and offended, but not in the moment.
Later at night when they're like,
Wait a minute. They pull it out and they're like, wait a minute.
they jump up in bed. And I also think you kind of alluded to, like, there's no absolutes, also meaning it doesn't have to be all or none. That's
correct.
Like, hey, cool. And not even Tuesdays, but this workout, 95 and 65 are RX.
Right.
Tomorrow it's back to, one of the things we get is like, hey, classes are packed. When should I add more? I was like, let's try Tuesday, Thursdays one day.
Yeah,
like,
just
why do we
add
have to jump to 5 days a week?
Right.
Just start small for affiliate owners lose their mind of like,
Well,
we have
experiment
to
and measure, right? And it's not so anytime people want to add classes, I'm like, hey, doesn't have to be permanent. Like when you make this decision, it doesn't mean it's forever.
And as long as you put it out there.
Correct. Yeah. So you tell everybody like, hey, let's start putting the weights back up on the board and just generally see what the feedback is. Like, does anybody say anything? Is there any discussion about it? Do we find that people hit the stimulus more or less, or are they making worse decisions?
Tell us about that. What have you noticed?
Well, we've only done it a couple weeks.
So it's very recent.
Yeah, this just happened within the last month.
Well, let me go back a step. What did this coach say to finally convince you?
Nothing really. I think it was the conversation we just had. We doubled back to it, and in the next meeting, I just asked her, like, how does that change your coaching? Does that help you to coach better? And for her, it was.
That's a great question, by the way.
Yeah. And for her, she wanted to just both parties to have the same information, right? Because we were telling, like, we know it's 135.
That's true. That's a really good point. Like, I know the answer.
That's right.
I want you to.
That's right.
And then the members are probably like, "What's RX?"
They would.
Yeah.
They would. And we saw that, and I'm like, hey, don't tell them, because they're like, hey, you know.
But at some point, it also is. If they've been
Right.
doing it long enough, it's obvious.
And that's
it's
what's
like
her
95,
point.
155,
That's right,
185.
She knew that they were picking
It's
it
never
anyways.
175.
That's right.
Or 160.
Yeah, it's never these.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's very
It's not
straight,
some random
DT's
number.
155 randomly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
But it's usually.
And we were leaving them in for any of the benchmarks, right? Because
That's
we want
cool.
to
Right.
continue
Well,
to
it's a
mark
benchmark,
those, right? So, again, we had done a workout the week before that also helped. I was like, you know what, that I see her point, because I think it was running and snatch, and the RX weight was 155. And nobody,
So no one's hitting that
nobody.
stimulus.
The only guy who would have been is Paul, and he's built like a
because that stimulus
bull.
is it's heavy. It's
It was
moderate,
heavy,
right? But
yeah.
so you're not meant to go unbroken.
That's correct. And the way everybody,
Depending on how many reps.
that's right. It was not meant to be, right? It was
remember
meant to
seeing
be.
that cap
Yeah,
workout,
that's
yeah.
right. But most people were coming way down to like 95, and they
touch
were
and go.
yeah. And we had told them like, hey guys, this is meant to be a moderately heavy. You should not be going 12 unbroken. You really probably shouldn't be doing 6 unbroken unless you
Maybe
are,
set 1.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And they were, and so we missed that stimulus as a gym that day. Like I think it was supposed to be 15 minutes. Most people were done at like 8. Like we missed it big time, right? And so that's what I told them. I'm like, here's an example of the opposite, where we as a gym missed it that day.
Yeah.
And we need to learn from that. And maybe this is a way where I was like, okay, I can see that side of it. And so we as a group decided to put it back in. Because I do want our coaches to know that, like, you do have input. I just want to hear reasoning, And I think we learned that from the last summit. It was like, hey, ask the right questions. Continue to ask questions.
That's actually sounds like what you did there, which is
Right,
great. By the way, talking about the mastermind, the summit. The mastermind.
Sorry.
Right?
The summit's this weekend.
You're at the
mastermind.
Denver one,
Yep.
and you're coming to Nashville?
Absolutely.
And everyone's got these major issues. Not major, but some were deeper than others.
Yeah.
Brandon's like,
Got it pretty good.
Tuesday mornings, I'm trying to get a few more hours. And I was like, this is your problem.
I know, yeah.
And I was like, cool. Did you wind up getting coverage at that time?
No, we never solved that problem. But unfortunately, after you hear everybody else's,
Well, you were very early. That was
early,
the first group. You were
and
like
I
the second person.
Yeah, I didn't really ask my question and what I was after, because of course, I'd love to give the mornings up, but it's not the end of the world that I do them. I'm on the floor 8 to 12 hours a week. It's not.
That's a really nice
How many
amount of time.
How many
at all.
classes a month do you guys run? Do you know?
Well, we were on 30 a week.
30 a week. So you run
depending on
120,
the month,
call it 100 or
120.
125,
So you're on for-
130, and then you're covering 30 of.
Well, no, 8 to 12 a week, so it's probably
Yeah.
30%.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
A little higher than
15%
we'd
would
want
be
it.
where I'd
right.
want you
Yeah,
to be.
and that's where I'm actually facing I'm getting a coach.
Paul's
She's
taking
coming
notes
out.
over there. What are you writing
Yeah,
down,
right.
Paul?
He's like
Did I say-
15%.
Did I say something? Good. It's about the Thursday meetings again?
Right. So we, and then we're trying to bring on. We need to add some coaches, honestly, just to have them ready to go, because we've got 5 of us. Really, 5 of us that are carrying.
5 makes me uneasy. 5 is slim.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. But then
For
again,
that many classes,
right?
especially.
But I look at it and I think, I just
For
it's not
where
hard.
you're
I don't
at-
feel like I'm in an
For
uncomfortable
where you're
spot.
at, that's probably like if you were to. Did you do an assessment on Brendan recently?
No, not yet. Yeah.
So you'll get that soon.
Okay.
That's probably what you'll see, right? The team.
The team, and then looking at that overall class load, which is like, hey, how do we pull that down? And the difference there is, and the difference there is not that whether it has nothing to do with whether you want to coach them or not. Right. It has to do everything with like, do you have to coach them? Right. Now, if you want to coach 30, that's great, or whatever that is for throughout the month, or call it 32. Yeah. So if you're coaching 32 throughout the month, so you're at like 20? No, you might be like right. If you're coaching 130 classes a month,
That's
you might be right.
25%,
So you're in there, but we'd want to see a little bit lower, because at 15%, what we find is that if it's above 50%, you tend to be there's a bottleneck there, and then like fulfillment hinges on you quite heavily.
Yeah.
And then again, you're really close to being back at 40
Right. Yeah.
All of a
One
sudden,
coach
40
down.
or 50
for
back
sure.
a month, and you're like, okay, now
I've
you're
seen that happen.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. It's because I wasn't backfilling, but so that's why we were like, hey, we want to see 15 or less, and then we want to see like you don't have to do any of them, and you just coach only the ones you want. Yeah,
Right,
coach.
yeah,
Hey,
for sure.
that's what I'm going to try to do next year is coach like one class a week, just because I want to.
Yeah, and that's been, as an owner, one of my struggle points. It's like, how do you detach but you stay attached, right? Because I love coming in, seeing the members, and then you think, man, or if I'm like right now, they're like, where have you been?
Yeah.
So that still grabs you to stay there while it's like, hey, I do need to kind of come off the floor.
It's interesting because you're kind of doing an experiment of that right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So you're showing yourself it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like every winter you do it.
Yeah, it is possible, and I can easily get it down to 6, really, because I mean.
But let me take a step back to go on to Christmas lights for a second. Yeah. Why don't you hire someone to put the lights up?
Nobody wants to work like I do. And
this is the problem. None of the coaches are good enough. No, one's good
my
enough.
coaches are amazing.
That's a pretty heavy.
I mean,
we're
hanging
labor
That's
job,
right.
Though.
Yeah. People don't want to hang Christmas.
Can I talk numbers on it for a second?
Sure.
What's the average house cost?
Probably $300.
Oh, you're not charging enough is the issue. That's like $1,000 in Boulder. Dude,
I
looked into it
on
when
the
Ross
house,
wanted. I was like,
yeah, but you
I was
live
like,
in a
I don't
McMansion,
like my kids
bro.
this much. Like they don't. Madison will not remember this. When she's 6, we'll hire someone. And by the way, do they do them in Hanukkah colors? Do you do Hanukkah colors?
Hey, whatever you need, bro.
So you got the blue and white ones.
That's it. Hey, you pick the colors.
So you're not charging, but okay, you charge $300. You don't think someone would do that for $100 for an hour?
Yeah, but do you trust them being on a roof of a house and not falling
well, you
off
need insurance. Do you have insurance?
Sure. Yeah, I do. Yeah. But
here's the thing: we're starting CLU, Christmas Light University.
The big exactly.
If you're going to be our first client,
the biggest issue is it's seasonal, right? So you've got to find somebody that can only do it for a
Here's the
month.
problem. I just solved your problem.
You did.
You got to do lights year round.
I know.
Halloween.
That would be,
Well, you do it once.
That's right.
You change the colors. Like you got to figure out so they're.
I have one that I do that way.
You get the Halloween. You got Easter.
4th of July, Valentine's Day.
4th of July.
Yeah,
Red and
St.
white
Patty's
and blue.
Day.
Green
Exactly.
for St. Patrick. Dude, we just shut this gym
right.
down.
Close
and
it up.
let's do Christmas Light University.
Hey, I wish.
Meanwhile, someone's stealing that right now.
That's right. They're like,
edit that out,
idea.
Nate. Take that out. That's my idea. I don't want Fern having 33%.
That's right.
Marcus gets none of it. That's ours.
That's your idea.
The goal there is so the challenge there is like you have to execute some discipline when you start to remove yourself, because I was literally just talking to somebody about this today. They're like, man, it would go a long way if you came back in here and got on the floor. And I'm like, it would. I would also forfeit so much, right? So it would go a long way in here. So I've really had to, it's been a real struggle for me, quite frankly, too, because I love coaching, man, and I want to go back on the floor, but I have to craft the exact scenario when I go back on the floor, it's only pluses for everybody. It's a plus for me. It's a plus for everybody else.
That's your stakeholders, right?
Right.
It's not
but
for
if
you.
I do it right now, I was like, we have so many things that we're building and trying to get organized, and I'm like, I'm gonna be stressed going on the floor for, call it 4 or 5 hours a month, and I'm like, I'm not doing it, dude. I don't care how much people want it. When I go back on the floor, it's just gonna be because I'm like, yo, I literally can't wait to go back and coach that class.
Well, and by the way, whoever this member is, you can probably solve a lot of that just by like poking your head in for 5 minutes. Like they're not saying I need you to. They are, but what they really want is like, hey, I just want to chat with you more.
Right.
Right. And
Which
like,
I do
cool,
that
I
anyway.
can
Like
be the
always,
gym
like
mayor.
I have the staff makes fun of me. They're like, you like pop out of that office and you like sprint around the gym for a little bit and then you just go lock yourself back in there. I'm like, but that's intentional though.
You'll be doing.
And I do that from time to time, and they don't like it a lot because I kind of stir them up. I get them stirred up.
You do. It's like an uncle. You're like, get the kids. Here's some sugar.
And Jen's like, get out of here. I'm
dude,
like, no,
I'm fucking late
but
now.
we're having fun.
But
this is fun.
You're like condensing an hour of presence and attitude into 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that's ultimately the goal, and I'm gonna continue to work.
All right, so
that.
that's our challenge. 2024.
Yeah, it's a big problem that
15
I have.
what?
% or less.
Oh no, but I mean, yeah, for sure. And I was thinking like we need two additional qualified coaches on the floor here.
Yep. And I've got one that she's finishing up the kids class, and I told her we're getting you on the floor. And then I'm going to reach out to one, or I've actually talked to her. I just got to set up the meeting with her. She actually owns a gym in South Carolina still. Her and her husband just moved down here and joined us, so we'll see.
What was the other opportunity
that
you didn't want to tell me about?
No, I did. We just didn't get to talk to it. It was about opening up another.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Another
affiliate. Yeah.
Like Heath too?
Like Heath too.
We spoke just on I think one call.
You and I spoke, and he was like, "Yeah, I talked to Fern on that." And I was like,
"Well, because I always
like I went and talked to Mom. I gotta go talk to Dad now."
We have another client, Allie, who's like in the middle of, and I'm like, "I will talk to you about this again if Fern gives you his blessing."
Right. Yeah.
And so then I saw her on my calendar. I was like, "Oh, Fern said it was cool." She's like, "No," and I was like, "Why are we talking?
Why are we here?"
And she's like, "You guys are like two angels."
Yeah.
Because I am like more. Let's say optimistic isn't the right word, but like let's
do it.
See what
it's be fine.
Like.
What's the worst that could happen? I'm like everything could fall apart.
Exactly.
Your whole life could be ruined.
And I'm like not all the way at the extreme. Let's run to it, but I'm more open to it than he is.
Right.
But he's right. Like 9 times out of 10, it does not work.
Okay.
Well, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. More importantly, because it doesn't make sense when we actually start to map it out. I'm like, who's doing what? And they're like, well, just have somebody else run. And I'm like, you're saying that phrase like
we have 10 people.
Like we have, like you're overflowing with people, and
right.
you found like the exact right person, and there's tons of cash flow to pay this person. I'm like, I understand the concept that you just laid out there, but like that is not available to you. I was like, and more importantly, it always happens in the exact same spot, right when the affiliate owner gets to like,
it's right now.
It's right now.
Yeah,
It's like, dude, they're like, I'm living the good life. You know, like, let me go mess it up.
And if he went back and listened to this, he'd be like, oh, I'm still coaching 25% of the classes. Like this does, from an unbiased perspective, you're like, oh, that makes no sense.
Right.
Which is the beauty of this group, like, because we can, like, when we've just said this, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to get more coaches in here. Like, how do I go put them in another one?
Maybe in 2 years from now, because Fern's right. There's the potential, especially for affiliate owners, will present itself, and it will be better.
It will just show up your door, and it'll be like, this is and you'll be like, that makes 100% sense, and it checks every box that I would want it to. Meaning, like, financially, it makes sense. I have the time, I have the desire, have the team in place. I have a proven systems over here that I can just literally, like, copy paste, and this will be significantly easier the second time. Sure. But it's typically not that way. There's typically things that are still not, like, you don't expand stores in a franchise until one of them just hums. You're like, oh, I can print this over and over and over and over and over.
Right. It's literally just replicating.
Yeah. It's
that makes a lot of sense.
And I'm not opposed to multiple facilities. I think what happens is people hugely underestimate like how far they are away from that.
Right.
From that point.
For sure.
You were talking about like, you know, you love being here. And I'm like, that's a huge deal because I tell you what, you're not going to do a lot of if you open a second facility. Be here,
yeah.
And
because you got to go be there,
right? You got to go be there.
And also just quality of like, I assume you have a firefighter pension. You got this other business which is about to boom.
Yeah.
With my ideas.
Exactly.
It's like affiliate owners are notorious for like, oh, life is like so smooth and comfortable.
Jacking it up.
How can I jack this up? And I'm like, or use this as your opportunity in life to do what you love and have some extracurricular activities, like jiu-jitsu.
If you just did the math on it and you're like, hey, I'm going to open this other facility. I'm like, how much would you want it to increase your income or whatever?
Right, and what's that really going to do for you?
And you're like, 20%. I'm like, just do 20% here. Yeah. You're far more likely to do another 20% here and everything be easier if you just did it here.
And you're not taking on more.
You're not taking on more, but it actually helps you prove a point, right? It's just like, hey, if you can't flex that muscle to do 20% here, you have no business going and starting up a whole different one.
It's your clients like, oh, you can't make the top 25% that it is now this year. You don't need more. You need to get better.
Yeah, you need to get better.
Come back in a year and let's crack that 25%.
Yeah, right.
Which is too much. Do we all agree?
Yes.
I don't. It's
it's a lot.
It doesn't.
Yeah, we're not going to. We'll leave that to Andrew Hiller to talk about.
But yeah, that's a lot of people fall into that trap, and I'm like, the other thing is, I'm like, are you having fun right now? And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, you know what's not fun? Starting from fucking scratch. I was like, hey, you know that I'm gonna pull up our recording of our first call everywhere, where you're like, pulling your hair out. I'm like, do you want to be that person again? Because that is what is going to happen to you.
For sure.
Particularly if you haven't gotten everything completely dialed. I do think there's a time and a place, and I actually don't think we're that far away where we're going to see a decent amount of affiliate owners own multiple facilities. But
taking over established businesses that are
because they have the right amount of time, they have the bandwidth, they know how to build teams, they know how to run this really, really well. Then I'm like, listen, go take over the world. Like, I don't care. But what we don't need is more mediocre affiliates.
Right.
That's not what anybody needs. Like, we need more really, really high horsepower affiliates that are, having 200-300 members impacting a lot of lives. And I'm like, then do it again.
Right.
If you can do that, you've proven a lot of things,
Hey, before we wrap up, give me your...
Where are you going with this? Why are you looking oddly into my eyes? Yeah.
I got Cody behind me, behind you, telling me to wrap it up.
Cody's freaking out over
We
here.
do have to get to a
giving the
social.
signal.
Right.
Give me your favorite best member story, most impactful story of a member here at CrossFit Heath.
Oh, man. Most impactful. We have a member named Mandy. We call her Mandy P. I would probably say matter of fact, y'all saw her earlier.
Oh,
she
really?
was in here in the 8:30. To see her transfer, and actually she's on the board as one of our ambassadors up there in the top right.
Oh, yeah, I saw.
Okay.
Oh, she was right here.
Yeah, looking all
That's that
jacked.
girl?
That's her.
She has like blue hair.
Yeah.
Oh, I
She
was like,
using-
that chick is fit.
I walked in and I was like,
okay, yeah.
I was
okay.
like, oh, that girl's stronger than me.
Yeah.
That's immediately. That's the first thought I saw. I was like,
She is stronger.
I almost just turned around. I was like, that girl with green hair is stronger than me.
And Mandy
That doesn't even look like the same person.
No, it really doesn't. And so that's in about a year and a half. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, to see her transformation has been unbelievable. But I think, those stand out for me. But the one thing I always say, and y'all saw them, I call that my geriatric crew. That was down there. That's
I
right.
heard
That's
them
my
over
group.
talking.
Yeah.
They were talking about doing Chad tomorrow.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
one guy was like, no, I'm not doing Chad.
Exactly. But those guys, and they're all in their 60s and close
That's
to
awesome.
70, and they show up at our 8:30 every day. And I just
That's my
love
retirement. I can't wait.
I love
to be
coaching them. I love seeing them. I love the impact that is, because when I was a firefighter paramedic, we were reactive to bad things. We can be proactive to it. We can help them stay out of those situations through CrossFit.
Those are the people you were saving.
That's right. That's right. And now they're getting more healthy the older they get, which is phenomenal.
Well, you're just like, I'm not going to get a call for those guys that they've
Exactly.
fallen down, and I got to
That's
go pick them back
and,
up.
And I've seen that live. I've seen people that literally have laid on the floor for 24 hours trying to get help till they could finally crawl to a phone, or somebody comes by and checks on them. They've been laying there for 24 hours because they couldn't physically get back up. And I know those folks won't be doing that. And so that's that impact that I think drives us each day to see that. Like, it's great you come in, you're 25 and in shape. Yeah, you and everybody else. Good job. But talk to me when you're 65 and you're showing up and you're getting better, and you see them getting better, and you see them improving. And then, like we were just talking about Quinn the other day. I think Quinn's almost 70 now, and she actually worked with my wife as a nurse and just retired. And now she's starting to try to throw weight on, and I'm like, calm down, Quinn, it's okay. And she's like, let's go. I'm like, and so it's awesome. That's to see those things is really what just gets you showing back up.
And put that in perspective for affiliate owners. So many of them are like, we can't charge more. We can't do this.
You
Like,
can.
I mean, you've seen both ends of the spectrum. You go to pick someone up on their floor as a firefighter or a paramedic, they'd be like, how much money would that person give to not be in that position?
Right.
Everything they own.
Yep.
Literally take everything of mine just to be able to get off the floor.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what you're doing with these people for
For
that
minimal compared to what it would
Right.
cost that ambulance alone.
Or I'm sure you've thought that I'm sure you thought this many times. Is if you show up to that scenario and you're like, I can help you.
That's right.
I have the solution that you need.
That's right.
And all you gotta do is show up.
That's it. That's all you got to do. No, CrossFit,
Cool.
and it's the secret sauce.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been fun. I'm super glad we
I'm
made the
glad
trip. Jay didn't
for
want to make the
maybe-
trip. Yeah.
I was
He
like,
didn't
really?
want.
We
He was
gotta go
very
an hour?
resistant.
Yeah.
I gotta
Very
get up early.
resistant.
I know.
He fought me for 20 minutes. I was like, hey, we're leaving 7:50. Naturally, he showed up 7:52. I was like,
51.
fucking
I had
turd.
we had a big dinner last night.
Yeah.
My
Don't
stomach
talk about it.
was
Don't talk about it.
not
Yeah.
right this morning.
But he was just like, how about 8? And I was like, 7:50, dude. I'm not budging. 7:50. He got me
didn't-
off 7:45, and I was like, I'll give you 5 minutes. And then he was still stole another 2.
In fairness, Cody was later than me.
For sure. Yeah, Cody was 5 minutes late. So
Well, I am stoked y'all came out.
No,
I
this
really
was-
am. I've been
you
telling
know,
them all about it, and they're
I-
like, "Oh gosh, these guys."
I wish we can get to every one of our affiliates because it's so much more insightful for us. I mean, we get a lot of videos like show us around to show up, and also the fact that we saw what was going down.
yeah,
Like that
that's
was
the
a big.
cool part.
That was
Yeah.
really cool to see. Like because we talk a lot. Like we have clients that they're doing all the work, but they're not like moving up the way we want. And then you show up and you're like, oh,
You
it
see
was
one.
that.
Yeah.
Like what's happening on the floor. We came in like it was under control. She's yelling out like nonstop cues. Like it was great, and it's awesome to get to see that.
Yeah.
And you gave us
she
a
does an awesome-
T-shirt.
Absolutely.
Which we
T-shirt.
appreciate.
Yeah,
That's
Least
a
I
sweet
could do.
T-
Y'all
with
came
Texas
out.
on
I
it.
appreciate it. That's
yeah.
it. That's
and
it.
a coffee. Look, if I were going to show up to every affiliate and they had coffee and a T-shirt for me, I might leave my house more often.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it. But dude, we need more affiliate owners like you. Keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing. I
absolutely.
appreciate it. It's
Thank you.
and it's really cool to see this because like even though I've seen the pictures, I'm like so much better in person. Like this is a cool
cool.
spot. So if you guys are in this area, stop by. It's a phenomenal looking gym, and then might be moving to a new location. Maybe we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll
So
see.
anyway,
Check out the Best Hour dashboard.
Yep, Best Hour
on
dashboard,
Wodify.
Wodify, and coming to Push Press soon. So for anybody
Meeting
that's like,
tonight.
yep. So yeah, Jay won't be at that one. It's a little past
No,
his
that's,
bedtime.
that is too late.
That's too
But
late.
tell
for
me
him.
about it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll fill him in, and then his eyes will glaze over and he won't care. But yeah,
Accurate.
as always, guys, thank you guys for watching. We know you guys don't have to. For those of you who are listening, we appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.